Good afternoon. Welcome to Sarah Smith's Go-Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I'm pleased to call this meeting of the Sarah Smith's Go-Team to order at 3:19 p.m. Can someone who is joining remotely please put a thumbs up or take off mute to confirm you can hear what we are saying? Thank you, Katie. Our first order of business is to call roll. The secretary will now take the roll.
Please respond present when your name is called. Dwight Hudson.
Present.
Mary Casada. Present. Samantha Dickerson. Present. Ken Miller.
Present.
Jennifer Berry.
She's present online, Ms. Chestnut.
Present.
Hey, it's hard for me to hear. I can hear, but it's difficult to hear.
We may want to move a little bit closer. How do you hear me?
I do hear you.
I'm right in the
I do.
front.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you for telling us.
Nina Reed.
Present.
This team will only.
We have a quorum.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. We will proceed to the action items now of our agenda. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you and copies are here. Please take a moment to review the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? I would like to make one motion to amend the agenda to include a discussion of capital improvements to the building as part C of our discussion items following the review, budget development process, and budget allocation presentation items. May I have a motion to approve are there any other amendments to the agenda? May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Carla. Is there a second? Thank you, BJ. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay or raise your hand. Thank you for approving the agenda. We will now review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you. Are there any corrections to the minutes? We do have our minutes from our meetings on December 6th and December 15th. We'll follow on to complete the agenda from our December 6th meeting. There being no suggested changes, may I have a motion to approve the previous meetings minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, BJ. Then motion, Jennifer second. All in favor, please unmute, say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Everybody has voted in affirmative. All right. Our first action item today on our, so we have now completed the action items. Sorry, we have a special script today, so it's a little bit different. Well, now we're going to move on to the discussion items on our agenda. For the next few meetings, we'll be focusing on creating a budget for the next school year, which aligns with our strategic plan and addresses our strategic priorities. We need to ensure our meeting schedule permit us to complete the budget and aligns with district timeline. We need to have a draft budget completed prior to Mr. Hudson's staffing conference sometime, which will take place sometime between February 21st and 28th. It is on the 28th, but we're not going to give him things on the very last minute. So we're going to keep going. We need to have a meeting after the staffing conference and before March 17th for final budget approval. So Mr. Hudson, you've already told us the school staffing conference is scheduled for February the 28th. So thank you for that information. Let's take a quick look at our meeting schedule and make sure that we can meet our timeline here. So our next meeting is scheduled for
It's after that date, so we do have to reschedule.
right after.
March, 2 meetings.
So I think
Right?
No, we just really need to reschedule one. So the March meeting, no, both of them are in this one. So the budget allocation and the budget plan, initial budget plan is in this one. And so I'll have the staffing meeting on the 28th, and then sometime between the 28th and March 17th, we need to meet together again to get the approval of the budget after I have my staffing meeting.
Which days you
Yeah, we can take the, that comes up at the end of this presentation, so we can circle around to that at the end, and I'll check the calendar. once we get to the end.
okay, but we have identified we are going to need to have a meeting in March before March 17th. And we'll circle back. Yes, I'll just mark this. We will need to come back because we are going to have to adjust our meeting calendar and adjust the meetings that are posted. Okay. So let's move on to the budget, I guess, allocation presentation. So Mr. Hudson, if you would kind of explain to us what the school's allocation is and your thinking to us.
All right, and so they've outlined it very clearly, the steps that we have to follow. So this pretty much walks us through the entire allocation and the budget plan for next year. Just a reminder, this is a meeting of the GO team only. Members of the GO team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. We invite and welcome contributions of every member, and we listen to each other as well. We will follow the agenda as noticed to the public and stay on task, and we will respect all ideas and assume good intentions. So step one, we took a look at the data earlier this year, the strategic plan review. Right now, we're in phase 3 of looking at the budget parameters and step 4 of the budget choices. So this is just a little walkthrough where we've been and where we're going. So we're on step 5, where we're going to talk about the budget and allocation. Then we'll have my staffing conference on February 28th, and then we go to the final budget approval before March 17th, and we'll determine that date. All right, so we pretty much talked about that. In designing this, the role is to design a budget and propose operational changes that can raise student achievement, flesh out strategies, implement and manage them at the school level, focus on the day-to-day operations, serve as the expert on the school, and hire quality instructional and support personnel. So that's my role. The GO team's role is to focus on the big picture, positions and resources, not the actual people that are employed in them, and ensure that the budget is aligned to the school's mission and vision, and that resources are allocated to support key strategic properties. So you all will help me with making sure that everything aligns to the strategic plan and is falling in line. We just recently did this. Do we need a review? That was our overall plan, the strategic plan, but we can go right to the priorities and our rankings of them. So create a school-wide culture of high expectations, trust, and strong communication. Cultivate a global learning community that cohesively aligns our school systems and resources with the IB curriculum and supports our diverse population. Develop a literate community in which students read and write with clarity and fluency across the curriculum. Number 4, embed a data-driven multi-tier system of support, or otherwise known as MTSS, to improve all cohort performance in math and ELA. Number 5, offer a rigorous curriculum with an enhanced focus on the integration and application of math, science, and technology. Create a well-rounded curriculum that develops the whole child by providing more exposure to and appreciation of the arts and social emotional learning. Implement care team with 100% fidelity, utilizing the 7 core components. Offer authentic and diverse professional learning experiences and tiered coaching to increase teacher efficacy. And then foster an active and engaged school community that encourages inclusion of all stakeholders.
Principal Hudson, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the slides, like in the on Zoom, they're not changing. Like it's not in presentation mode, I don't think. It's still on the first slide. Or that's how it's showing up for me. I don't know if anyone else who is virtual is having the same experience.
It stayed the same for everyone?
Yeah, it did. I wonder if you shared your like window or your screen instead of sharing, like, you know how there are different options of what to share?
Yeah, give me a second.
I don't know.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, what do you see now?
The priority ranking.
Okay, and let me change the screen. Give me a second. And you all will need to come off mute if you need to tell me anything, because once it goes into this mode, I don't see the Zoom screen not from the main screen. Did the slide change?
It's still on the strategic plan priority ranking.
You share your entire screen?
Or I don't know, it might help if you go into presentation mode.
It's in presentation mode.
On the screen, it wasn't showing up as presentation mode. It wasn't on that. That one wasn't clicked. It was.
Click that one instead, because the presentation's going there.
Let's see. And did it change yet?
Yeah, now it's on the budget parameters.
Okay. So basically, when we pulled up the budget parameters, we looked at the school priorities and we put the priorities there, and then on the side, the rationale is just speaking to the reason why. So when we look at creating a school-wide culture of trust and strong communication, Sarah Smith lost a number of students in recent years. Enrollment is increasing again, but we also have a change in demographics. Additional office staff, bilingual, and office staff, general office staff is needed to improve customer service and increase trust. We want to cultivate a global learning community that cohesively aligns to our school systems and resources with the IB curriculum and supports our diverse population. So we are continuing with IB being the central focus of what we do next year. And so looking at the instruction through that lens, developing a literate community in which students read and write with clarity and fluency across the curriculum. This speaks to us continuing with the PLC work that we started this year and making sure that we continue with that next year and strengthening the lessons, strengthening our unit planners, strengthening curriculum, math, science, English, social studies across the board. Embed a data-driven multi-tier system of support to improve all subgroup performance in math and ELA. So that the principal thing here is to ensure that tier 1 instruction is delivered with fidelity before advancing to tier 2 and tier 3, making sure that our tier 1 instruction is shored up and fine, and that the students are getting what they need so they don't actually have to move to tier 2 and tier 3. And everyone is clear on what we mean by the tier 2. I know that's a lot of teacher talk. We're looking at, in general, having good, strong instructional practices that goes out to everyone. And 90% of our students, 80 to 90% of our students should move and advance with that. But if they struggle, then we look at different strategies for the students that are struggling, that's tier 2. And that should help get them to the level that they need to be. But then tier 3, we start to look at ESOL, special ed, and different programs that may have to meet their needs. So the goal is to be able to meet their needs at tier 1. But if we're not able to, implementing strategies in tier 2, and then if we don't get to that, or the student still needs additional support, those are the ones that move to tier 3. So it's designed to meet everyone at the level of where they are and not advance them into specialized programs if it's not necessary. Offer a rigorous curriculum with an enhanced focus on the integration and application of math, science, and technology. So as we work to improve our implementation of IB, the transdisciplinary component is essential. We also want to create a well-rounded curriculum that develops the whole child by providing more exposure to and appreciation of the arts and social emotional learning. So we can continue to focus on the entire child with our specials programs, but then also with SEL. Implement care team with 100% fidelity. We have been doing that. So it's just a matter of, we would name exemplary for that. So it's to continue doing that to meet the social academic needs of all students as well as their academic needs. And offer an authentic and diverse professional learning experience and tier coaching. That's the work of the coaches, the instructional coach that we have for reading and social studies, our math model teacher, our IB specialists. This is their roles and what they do. And foster an active and engaged school community that encourages the inclusion of all stakeholders. So looking to improve customer service to families, speed up some things, enrollment, things of that nature, making sure that all calls are answered in a timely manner. And so that is the overall rationale and some of the priorities that we have in our plan. So this budget represents an investment for our schools, students, and the community as a whole. It's tied directly to our strategic vision. The proposed budget for the general operation of the school are reflected at $9,510,476. And they give us one big bucket and they tell us to allocate and distribute it according to our strategic plan, with the exception of certain things like special ed and other ESOL teachers and things of that nature that are required. Everything else falls within my purview. The investment plan of FY24 accommodates a student population that is projected to be 839, which is a decrease of 33 students from school year 23. But then also keeping in mind that we were way above at the beginning of the year. So just looking at how our numbers were way above, I pulled this 33 number from our current enrollment. So we're somewhere around 877 or so, and that's the difference between those two. So for every student, we get, the base is 4,582. So for every student that comes into the school, that's the number they get. Now, when we look at kindergarten, they get an additional 0.6. So we multiplied that 136 by 4,582 and then multiplied again by that 0.60. And that gives us our additional funds, and that's our total allocation of 373,000. So when we get our kindergartners into the building, you know, the kindergarten roundup is very important because they earn a little bit more than even our first, second, and third graders. Our first, second, and third graders earn 0.25 in additional funds. And then when you jump down, there's a 0.5 for the poverty index. And so you'll see the weight in the middle and then the amount of funds that were actually in the allocation to the right. When you go down some more, EIP, REP is 1.05. Special education, special education, gifted, all of the different allocations are there. So that totals $6,071,322. Any questions so far?
Just maybe it's a question. So there's no, is there any acknowledgement for 2 campuses in the allocation?
There is, and you won't see it there. It's coming up. It's
Okay.
coming up.
All right. Thank you.
Seems low.
I'll have to check. I don't know off the top.
That 136, that's low.
Yeah, we were well over this year, period. I can give you the specific number. I can pull.
Got the numbers.
You have them? Yeah, we'll get them, please. And I can pull it up afterwards, just going into the campus and check the enrollment, but we were significantly over, almost to 100, maybe 89 over this year, what they projected for us.
As soon as we run the school year.
No. So what happens is on the 10-day count, when we look at the 10-day count, which FTE, that 10th day of school, the numbers that are counted on that day is what it's based on.
So if more comes in, like.
No. We do another FTE count in March, but basically that number that's set in early August is the number that we have to go by. So if they come afterwards, like we do get a lot of people that move from up north, and in up north, they're accustomed to going to school after Labor Day, we don't get that.
It's I think it's 135 right now. It was 133 in December.
Okay. Any more questions about the allocation?
I suppose my curiosity is kind of, I guess, on the same lines, but do you think that these are reasonable numbers? And is there any mechanism to say, hey, APS, like you're off last year, we don't want to be off again? It really.
There is, but let me tell you the honest truth.
Yeah.
I don't have the trend data yet from just being here in the first year. So as I start to see the trends myself, there was a vehicle for me to say, hey, I don't agree with this, but at this time I trusted what APS said because, to be honest, I don't have enough data from having the years of experience yet to know, okay, this is where we've been trending. So for this year, I just left it at status quo, to be honest.
So the numbers, when was the last time the numbers were revised, the count?
Right before we did the funding.
What's our current home? Is it right?
No, this is our projections for next year. I can pull up our current enrollment. I just have to go to the. You have it, the total?
The total of December, hold on, let me just add it. I've got the PC and IC. So it's 887.
887? That's
Now that
correct.
can be give or take.
That's current.
What was the number?
887.
I think it was 870. I'm sorry, it was 877. Whatever I pulled up today, whatever that is, that 839 plus, what is that, 33? So like 872 around there. That's the number. Because I pulled it up before I did the difference in the numbers, which was 33. So it is that 839 plus the 33. They look at all kinds of data as far as the children in the area, the pre-K. I don't know what all the science, the housing market. I don't know what all the scientific part to it is, but they have people downtown whose job is to look and make the projections based on what they think from year to year. You said, I'm sorry, Mr. Strode, say again. Mm-hmm.
So they're giving. Yeah, we don't.
They give us the projections.
And do you have a way to say that's not correct?
We have a way to say that we don't agree with it, then we can look at it from there, but like I said, with me not having the trend data, I just left it at the status quo. And if it ends up being more, which is what happened this year, then we earn additional funds next year.
Oh.
So
for
it's not like,
days.
right, so like, let's say on that 10-day count, we have 860 students instead of 839. Then we'll earn those additional funds at the same thing that we're seeing, 4,582 per student, plus depending on the grade and any other allocations they get for their weight. So it's not like it's lost money, and I'll be honest, I'd rather be under than over and make my projections based on the lower number, and that way we can, you know, deal with it then. But I also would like to be closer, because if you get too many students, then it becomes an issue. They give us additional funds and then we seek to hire, but it happens in September or October, so. Space? You-
Space we have it.
We just have to move things around. We have space, like, for example, we have some rooms that are used just for 3 teachers, or rooms for teachers to pull out. So if we need to add an additional classroom, depending on where it is, we have space in the building to add additional classrooms. Good questions, thank
Looks
you.
like our special ed.
It just depends on from year to year.
Principal, so how easy is to get the additional funds? Like, let's say the projections are too low, and then you have a higher headcount. How easy is to get the funds from APS?
It's easy.
It's easy, okay.
It's almost automatic. They
Okay.
look in, they say, okay, this was your enrollment, you're over this many, you earned this many funds. What would you like to do with the funds? And so at that time, and we can speak to that, because what we decided to do this year was add an additional teacher and add 2 clerks, which believe it or not, we're just being able to hire for, because we're just finding the right people. But they give us that money, and we tell them where we want it designated or what we'd like to do. Yes,
Pre-K comes from somewhere else, right?
Yeah. it is. Gifted is here with the weight. So when you look at gifted, the weight of 0.6, and there's $327,000 at the bottom, that's the gifted allocation. Yeah, that's the supplement, but the actual gifted students. Okay. So the signature program, and you see that 387,801, that's IB. So when we talk about the importance of doing IB well, the better we do, and we were exemplary the last time, I think we had no matters to be addressed, that's how that funding is impacted. So we want to make sure that we're doing a good job of implementing IB as well, so that when they come and they see our program, we receive all those funds, the maximum funds possible. We are not a turnaround school nor a Title I school, so we don't earn any of that money. Field trip money is $31,394. And what I understand from talking to other principals, that's gone up, because I think last year was around $20,000. The question that you asked, Mr. Miller, about the 2 campuses, that's that supplement right there, that additional $472,237. And then district funded stipends are for our grade level chairs, and that's that $10,200. This is the buses and any other additional things. And so like all the, what do they call it again? The indoor field trips,
Oh, high tech.
high touch, high tech, that comes out of a different bucket. So,
What about like the committees that are under PTO, is that funded separately?
the committees,
Yes, under the PTO.
yeah, that's
Okay.
different, totally different. All right, and so CARES. This is our last year of receiving a CARES budget. And our budget is currently $248,124. We received this based on the needs and the results from the COVID-19 pandemic and things that we needed to do for intervention and to catch the students up. Once the support needed to implement our school-based intervention block course has been fulfilled, we can use the remaining funds to address other school needs. And so what we had were some additional support personnel under this that we'll talk about. And we actually had to move one off. And this is the last year of this. So next year, I have 3 staff members that are under this. I have to figure out how to move those staff members over to general funds. So that's gonna be a lot of switching around and making some changes and some sacrifices to make that happen.
So this was due to COVID, right?
That was extra money from the government during COVID. So with CARES, we can get technology, mental and physical health things. You know, we talk about the wraparound services that we have. The one where the kids can do it now in the nurse's office and get support with that. Technology support, any of the software, we use Happy Numbers now, and there's Lexia. Depending on where that comes from, those are the type of things we can spend our money on. Supplemental learning, so remediation, enrichment, opportunities during the school year for students after school programs, EIP teachers, things of that nature come out of that bucket. Any professional development to help our teachers and support the students better. Any money or funds that we'd like to use for at-risk student populations, whether it's special ed, racial, ethnic minorities, migrant, homeless students, students in foster care, and then continuity of core staff and services. So we can also use this to fund various staff members, and you'll see that as well. So that would have been the end of the first meeting that we would have had, where we just shared, here's where the money is. Now we'll go into the decisions that were made and how we decided to spend it, which really, we've added a few additional staff members, but we haven't made a lot of changes for this year. I think next year is going to be the year for the major changes, but with everything that's in place, we wanted to just continue. Do we have any questions so far before we move on to the next?
I have a general question, I guess, with the CARES money, if we ever consider for the stipend, if we ever consider offering stipends for IB trainings?
That conversation has come up.
I've heard it a lot recently as well. I just did training, but I've heard it recently, and that's why I thought.
I don't know where that's gonna land, because that conversation has come up. It would be specifically for the trainings that occur in the summer, where we're asking teachers to come in on their off time, but we don't know if we're gonna be able to do that because we would have to do it across the board. So I don't know that we'll have the funding for it. Those questions were asked and raised, but we didn't get an answer back yet, but it's something that's in discussion as well. So this part has to be done before the school staffing conference. And I'm sorry, did anyone else, did Magali have any questions or anyone have any questions?
No creo. Que va a haber personal en la oficina que hable español, porque ha habido muchas que tienen problemas con los maestros, precisamente that she's very happy that that the school is getting new staff, bilingual staff, because she has spoken to many other parents who have issues with their children, but they can't communicate. They can't communicate with staff because of the language barrier.
Okay. Very good. So there'll be at least, we'll have Mr. Kasike here and you know Mr. Kasike. And then we'll have another person at the primary campus that we're gonna hire right now. Right here. Sure.
En el otro campus, las mamás con las que he platicado son niños de los campus y precisamente y el que está más enfocado aquí sí nos ayuda, pero sí ha sido como más enfocado que allá para eso. Yes, that most of the moms that she's spoken with, their children are at the other campus, and there's a great need for someone who speaks Spanish.
Okay, we're on it. And that's part of, as we talk about building the community and so forth and building that trust, that's part of our strategic plan, but that's also why we're looking to hire and maintain that. So, yes,
Your budget is 50 students, that being 50 students less than we currently have. Are you able to staff appropriately the next year?
we are, and we'll talk about how we staff it. You'll see what we have. Those two, they're included on this year's budget. So when we looked at next year's budget, I really still had additional money so that we could hire 1 or 2 people. So those two that we're talking about, the additional clerks, were already on this year's budget. And so the couple of additional staff that we needed, we were able to hire those as well. And so we can talk through that in just a sec. So the Go Team feedback sessions are scheduled for me to provide an overview of the draft budget. And this meeting provides an opportunity for Go Teams to discuss how the school's budget has been allocated to support the programmatic needs and key strategic priorities. Meetings must be held in February before staffing conferences, may be combined with the allocation meeting as needed, if the Go Team has completed the strategic plan updates and ranked strategic priorities. So we've done all that. We're in a good space. I had to learn, so thank you. We canceled the last meeting so I would have enough time to look at the budget and do the allocation and the budget planning. So thank you for that time. So we looked at this already in the first meeting, so no need to review that. So our priorities are Fund 24, school year 24 from the school strategic plan, ranked by the order of importance. The APS 5 focus area. What part of the APS 5 is the priority aligned to? Whatever strategies that we're going to use, make sure that we lay them out. Let's focus on school improvement. What are the requests? What do I ask? And what needs to be funded in order to support the strategy? And what is the cost associated with the request? So that's all in the next sheets. And this is a lot smaller than what I thought it was. It's one thing when you're working on a computer. So our first one basically is create a school-wide culture of high expectations, trust, and strong communication. Still creating a system of school support. And the request is mainly to just maintain and keep a parent liaison in place. So we have a parent liaison this year. We'd like to keep that parent liaison in place that speaks Spanish. Cultivate a global learning community that cohesively aligns our school system and resources with the IB curriculum. So fostering academic excellence for all. When we talked about cultivate partnerships to support IB, supplemental training, implementation, program of inquiry development and updates, planner development in order to implement programs with greater fidelity, that means we need our IB coordinator. And so we'd like to continue with the IB coordinator for next year. Also keeping in mind that next year is an evaluation year for the school. IB is coming out to evaluate us. And so we'd like to maintain that exemplary status that we've had. Develop a literate community in which students read and write with clarity and fluency across the curriculum, fostering academic excellence for all, looking at our MAP data to develop individual goal setting, monitor progress, and provide feedback to increase student Lexile levels. One of the things that we'd like to do, looking at reading, writing, and math, is we have a coach, but we also have a master teacher. So this is the first ask for additional funds. We would like to create a second coach position because we need that instructional coach throughout the year. And right now, there's a role that we have that's a master teacher. If we abolish that and then add a coach, it's a difference of $18,832. So that's one of the first real asks that we'd like. And we're not adding additional coaches all the way down. This is just a duplicate of this because with this priority here, with improvement in math and ELA for different cohorts, utilizing common assessments, benchmarks, grade level assessments to foster a cycle of continuous improvement through the use of data. This is what the master teacher will assist with. And so it's the same person here or the same position here, just showing it in different places because they're going to help with our strategic plan in multiple areas. Once again, this is the IB coordinator, just saying that we're going to maintain that. And we put all the priorities here. And so sometimes these are repetitive. Trying to see if there are any new
Can you
assets.
explain again, the number in red is incremental spend from last year, or what is the?
So the number in red is that position was about $20,000, the 18,000. That the new position earns will cost us about $20,000 more. So that's all the number in red is, the 20,000 more. That would be the actual salary. It's the difference between what the position is now and what the increase will be.
So the
Thank you.
114 will be increased by 20,000?
No, the 114 is the increase of 20,000.
That includes.
Yeah, that includes it.
Can you say what the difference is in a coach?
So the master teacher really is functioning as a coach, but they have the same schedule as a teacher. So in the summer, when we need time to plan and coming back early in the summer and at the end of the summer, we don't have that time together. So we all need that time together to plan lessons, PL, frameworks, all the instructional things that we're looking at doing next year. We're looking at having an instructional framework to have consistency across the grade levels. We're looking at having math workshops for the teachers to help increase their efficacy in teaching math lessons. And we're looking at having someone that can just be there with the team for that additional amount of time to go in and support us in the classroom and so forth. Okay. Next is, this is still going into IB with utilized transdisciplinary teaching of the IB units that incorporates math, science, technology, and other core subjects. That's the strategy that we're looking at. So it's just to maintain the IB. Last year was the first year well, no, it wasn't. Was last year the first year they had an SEL teacher?
Yes.
I believe last year was the first year that they had an SEL teacher. And
It
so
was not the first year, sorry. Last year was not the first year.
Okay, thank you.
The person who was in that position retired,
Thank
Deb
you.
Dubois. Mhm.
That's right. Thank you. So we do want to maintain an SEL teacher because that SEL teacher functions like a second counselor for us when we talk about helping students with social emotional needs. When we have issues and conflicts between students, she's a person that we can go to and say, hey, these students are having conflicts, please sit down with them. She sits down, she talks with them. And so that, we just want to maintain that position for next year. And so that's actually, I'll have to change that. It wasn't added during last year, but the person retired. We'd like to continue with that position. That's the same thing with building a culture of support, where we want to continue to implement social emotional learning. Yeah.
Is it one teacher?
One teacher, one SEL.
Yeah, only one?
Only, there's one. No, we have a counselor at the other building, and then we have the SEL teacher here. So, and then they go between buildings, but we have two. So we really have one per building that we have need for. It would be great to really have two counselors, but we can't afford that at this time. And then this was still going into the master teacher leader or the master teacher. And then the final one is that 91,518, we're adding 2 clerks, 1 bilingual this year, so that we'll also have 2 people answering the phones in both buildings. And it doesn't say here, we talk about utilize the family engagement liaison to provide supplemental supports and transition programming with particular focus on ESOL and special education families and students. We also want the clerks there for communication. We want them so that there are two people in the front because oftentimes one has to leave and then the phones go unanswered. So looking to improve customer service, helping parents to get through on the first call through, helping parents to address the needs or at least get to the person that they need. And also to help take some of the clerical work off of the admin team. So this is the first school that I worked at where the APs are doing enrollment, registration, and scheduling, and that should not be, their attention should be focused on instruction and going into the classrooms and supporting students and supporting teachers. So that's another reason for them to have that come off, and that is a $91,000 ask, which is on the budget this year, but also will be on the budget for next year. That's the master teacher. I didn't put the original, the upper salary above that. Also, what I did notice is, and it's not here, we did ask for one additional teacher because second grade is going to have very high numbers. So to reduce that class size down to below about 22 per classroom, we're adding an additional second grade teacher. Also, fourth grade, we have a teacher that was hired this year, but just so that you all know, we want to move that teacher to fourth grade. She was hired this year, but we're moving that teacher to fourth grade so that we can bring down the numbers at fourth because third has some very big numbers this year. And then every grade level will be somewhere around 22. Around 22, yeah.
Like, not necessarily high administrators, public things like public, but like this program.
So right now, it's really kind of, it just depends on which one. Ms. Webb deals with the Black History Program. You'll have another administrator may deal with the Hispanic Heritage Program, but it's not one particular person right now.
I was gonna ask that. Only because that's program throughout the year.
Well, we could definitely raise that. So we have to do some shifts among administration, and part of doing those shifts is first taking off some of those tasks that they don't need to be concerned with. Enrollment and registration, where we get bogged down with that at the beginning of the year, really, instead of really focusing on what's more important. So that's part of the reason for the 2 additional clerks as well. And so, I'm sorry, I didn't include the second grade teacher on here, but there's an additional second grade teacher that's on here. And that would be at that $95,300. This is how we used our CARES allocation, but just keep in mind that this CARES money goes away after next year. So we're going to have to figure out how to absorb this into our general funds budget. One was we have an additional EIP teacher, which works on the children that need additional support with reading. With reading, we actually had 2 on here at one point, but we had to move one off because we didn't have enough funds under CARES to do that. We also have, we have an additional media specialist that's here, this number here. And then we have one more teacher that's on this budget that's an actual additional kindergarten teacher to bring down class size. So that's the 3 teachers here, and then the remainder, which is a few thousand, just went into supplies. So that's how the CARES budget was spent this year, and for next year, rather. Questions about CARES or anything thus far?
So once it goes away, then we're gonna absorb it with the budget.
We're gonna have to absorb it in the general funds, but what that means is, depending on the amount of money we have, we just don't get to do what, we have to figure out what to move around, what positions we need, what's not as critical, and sometimes you have to make, some drastic decisions to make sure that everyone that we need is included in that budget, or unless our enrollment increases by a lot, and then we don't have to worry about that. But if the enrollment maintains the same and we have to absorb that into the budget, then we have to figure out how to absorb this about 248,000 into our regular budget.
And there's personnel on here.
Yeah, their personnel and care. So what they told us this year is not to add any new additional personnel into CARES because they know that's coming. And so I didn't add anyone new. As a matter of fact, I actually took someone out of CARES this year and added that position to our general funds. And so just kind of being mindful and careful of not overextending, because I can't just look at next year. I have to think down the road what's going to happen next, because if we need those positions, and we do, like we need 2 media specialists, we have to figure out how to absorb that and which positions which positions we could abolish and then still maintain a second media specialist.
So the program is going away, period.
CARES,
Yeah.
this is it, next year is it. We've enjoyed the benefits of it for 3 years, and we were able to get additional staff, that additional staff was able to support, and it helped with a lot of things. It was a tremendous help, but now it's going. And so speaking of being careful and mindful, we have a reserve budget. Our reserve budget is $121,426. I've chosen not to touch that. And the reason why I've chosen not to touch that is if we come in under enrollment for some strange reason, then instead of losing staff, I can just pay that money back. Each teacher is about $95,000. So let's say, for example, we're under budget and they say, listen, Smith has to lose 1 teacher. Instead of losing a teacher and class size is increasing, I just decide to hold that money till next year, see what happens. If everything is fine and enrollment comes in at where it should be, then we have that money to spend. We can decide what we need to do. It can go into materials. It can go into hiring another teacher. But if we come in under, then I'd rather just pay that back and not have to lose personnel. So being kind of reserved with the spending, but I think it's gonna be better in the long run, morale and everything, be not to have to let someone go or have someone.
This is like use it or lose it kind of situation for the end of the year.
Not use it or lose it. It's reserved for now, but they release those funds to us at a certain time after the FTE, and we know where we fall.
What are the line items that you can use that money in case?
It's a wide variety. We can use it for staff, we can use it for materials,
Field trips?
personnel. Where we need to put it. It comes, I don't know for sure how that works. I know that we talk about reserves every year as a whole package. How they calculate it, I don't know, to be honest, but they have it every year,
A nice cushion to have.
a little cushion. That's really just about 1 teacher plus some supplies.
Do you need to plan now for that cushion in case you don't need it for teachers? Like, do you need to start like thinking around
We
what would
definitely.
be strategically
Mhm.
nice to have?
And that's some of what I get some input from the teachers from. I've asked them to provide me with input with, if we had some miraculous extra money, what would they like? Or what would they need in the school to support them? And so they've given me some feedback on that too. Even during this process, I asked them to see what they may think they would like in the school.
I have a question on this. Is this 121 included in the 9 point whatever million you showed us before? So this is part of the budget allocation that you have reserved, or it's separate?
I think it's a separate amount that's just reserved. So the money, if we go back to the beginning when we looked at that, if you see my budget allocation says 0,
Right.
it starts off and it lets me know how much money we have. As we add positions, it keeps going, and then we have to get it to the point that it says 0. So this is the additional funds that they're holding for us.
Okay.
But it's on that form and it shows us where it is, but that we're not touching that yet.
The other thing I heard you say was that this is sort of mindful of not wanting to need to cut if. So I guess my kind of ask would be to try to get a little bit more info on the science behind how they come up with the 839 number or what have you. I think it's helpful for two reasons. Maybe one is to understand, from your year here and understanding what they were looking at, what's your gut reaction? Is it going to come in there higher or lower? I think it might just help to think about what's coming next, but also to think about if that trend sort of continues and what they look at. You mentioned it triggered when you mentioned that you're thinking years ahead. I think it's helpful to understand kind of like how that number works and what the shifts are that they noticed that had them come in at a few dozen less students a year for next year than this year. And like how is that change occurring and what does that mean for the resources you need in each building to reach the educational goals for the kids?
Got it.
Right? Because I think it matters, what those if there's demographic shift or if it's just overall reduction or which grades or all those things. So I just, I'm thinking about it. So I'd love it if you could.
I'll ask.
Ask
I wrote it down.
Thank you.
Thank you. So when we look at our overall budget, we see that 80% of our money is spent on instruction, about 6% on pupil services, 3% on improvement of instructional services, 1% on educational media, 9% on administration, maintenance and operation, it has 0%. I guess that's because it's all that's contracted, and then transportation, we don't have anything. Not at all. So the foundation is really what kind of helps us to save some, like now you won't see me have as much money in materials and supplies and curriculum because the foundation can help with material supplies and curriculum, which in turn frees up money for us to hire some more people. So we don't have as much of a concern about the curriculum stuff so that we can focus more on hiring staff.
I have a quick question. Just to give an example, you said the second grade teachers would cost $5,000. How do they determine that?
That's the average number. So there's an average teacher salary and that's what they use for that. When we look at the difference between, go ahead.
I guess I'm questioning how they do that if you don't know like how the experience level was.
So that's the number across the board. Now, one of the things that we do with CARES is the actual amount of money that you spend. So then we take the teachers with the lower salaries and put them on there sometimes. So that's how we determine like who would go on CARES versus who goes, because that's the average for 95. With CARES, you get the actual number. So any teacher that we had comes out the budget at 95. And so then this is the overall budget by function. That's basically the graph, the information that's on the graph and the amount of money that's spent out. I think transportation was 0.
Your instructional staff training.
That's a lot. Why is that 0? Because that can come from curriculum, from the foundation. They can help out. They do our IB training and everything like that. And I'm gonna look at this some more. We may make some adjustments when I speak to the staff and they may say, okay, here are some other choices, be wiser with this or that. I'll bring everything back to you once they make the final changes, and that's the budget that we vote on. Or they help me make the final changes. See?
Yes, it's a question. What is the foundation?
So the foundation is a nonprofit organization that helps to raise funds for Sarah Smith Elementary to help with curriculum and things of that nature, so that the money that we spend at the school, it can be spent more on students. It helps to lower class size. It helps to provide students and staff with additional opportunities.
Has their contribution, just for them,
Well, not 2 million, but they definitely have been consistent. Like they've been a super strong supporter since I've been here. And they have been for years. They have been prior to my coming, every year, they do things like smart boards in the classroom. So when there's something major that the teachers need, and that doesn't need to come out of our budget. So imagine they purchase 10 or so smart boards for the school. Chromebook carts, before APS gave Chromebook carts to all the students, they were there supplying those things, iPad carts. So it really comes into a discussion with us and what are our needs for the school for the next year, and what can they help relieve out of the budget so that we can spend the money elsewhere, because they can't buy personnel, they can't buy teachers, they can't pay for anything like that, but any curriculum help that they can give us to help relieve some of those other areas, they're able to do that.
For the staff training, I don't see anything there.
That was the question about foundation, they help with
So
a lot of that.
foundation helps with the training. What about like activities to, I don't know, like team building kind of activities? Where does that money come from?
That's still out of curriculum instruction support. I think I have a budget for team building as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
great to hear that.
What's your, for your instruction, what's your FTE? That 86 teachers.
It's 86. You mean this number here?
The first one, the first line. Instruction.
I thought this was going into the percentage of it, but I'll double check. I thought, but I see it's at 106 on that.
Yes, that's the case, it's $88,000 per teacher.
86. Yeah, it's 106. Well, I'll have to ask exactly how they calculated that.
That was like percentage.
Have you eliminated any roles year over year?
Every year or this year?
From where we're sitting today to the budget for next year, any roles eliminated?
The only role that was eliminated was the master teacher,
Right.
so that we could.
Other than.
So we didn't eliminate anything this year.
All right.
We're trying to maintain
That's
what
tough.
we had, it was working. But that's why also that reserve, I didn't want to touch that in case we have to eliminate one position or something, then we can just pay that back through the reserve and not have to abolish any positions.
Thank you.
All right, and so questions for the GO team to consider and discuss. Are our school's priorities from the strategic plan reflected in this budget? Are new positions and or resources included in the budget to address our major priorities? I guess we'll go through each one.
So you said there was a new hire, so that is gonna alleviate some of the class size, it's gonna lower the class size in the second.
Third grade.
And just so you know, the additional funds that we talked about is what has earned us one teacher this year plus 2 clerks. That was where we decided to spend that money on. And so we want to keep them in the budget for next year so that once they come in, that level of customer service continues. Oh, thank you.
And you also are investing in an ESOL teacher,
No, SEL teacher.
which is what?
So the SEL teacher is the social emotional learning teaching
Oh, got it. I
function.
thought it was English.
No, we have 4.5 ESOL teachers.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we have a good number of ESOL teachers, which it was reduced from, 1 second. It was reduced from 5.5, and that's based strictly on the numbers. Now this time that's strange. technology, like, okay. My prediction is they're all gonna be right around 22. Yeah, that was, I can give you specifics, but when I looked at the numbers, what I did was take this year's amount of students, roll them up, look at the amount of teachers, and some of the grades that were really big, once I plugged those numbers in, they came down to about 22. So everyone is gonna be somewhere around 22.
So I have a question. Does this, so the number's the same? So like if somebody retired or left, we would just fill that position? We're not taking out anything, right?
We could fill that position, but we have to look to see if it's something that gives us an opportunity to make a better
Or
move.
switch, I just say we're not losing that
That position, no,
place.
no.
As far as.
The February meeting that I have is going to be me taking this and sitting down with the staffing director to look at that with me and say, either you can do this or you can't do that, and whatever else. It's my first time going through it, but they basically walk you through your budget and to make sure that everything is fine. If any changes need to be made, they make the changes. I heard 9 times out of 10, they don't make any changes, and then we just come back and vote on it. But if there are changes that need to be made, I bring it back to the team. We discuss the changes and then we make a decision. That's all part of this. So there is a poll that went out from the district. I got them. And I think they're lying. I think they're lying. So I'm just gonna tell you the truth. Got them back. And there's only one teacher on there that says she's leaving next year. And I knew she was leaving because she's retired. I don't believe that though. And they offered $250. So APS said, if you fill it out by a certain date and you tell the truth, then you will earn $250 next school year on your check. So yeah, they lose it.
But you won't be here to get a paycheck.
Well, true.
Right. Question, I didn't hear anything about like funding extracurricular for kids that are like they can't afford to have extracurricular, like after school.
So I
Are
think
there any programs for that?
a lot of that goes through, that wouldn't come through this budget. A lot of that comes through PTO and foundation, and then we figure out some other creative ways.
Okay.
They do a lot. That's why I say they do a lot to help school as a whole, because any of those type of things they usually there to help provide for.
Okay.
A little fun.
Right.
Okay. What trade-offs are being made in order to support these priorities? I don't think we're trading a lot, not this year. Next year, that might be a more serious discussion. Cluster priorities, what staff materials are dedicated to supporting our clusters priorities. Signature programs, what staff materials are dedicated to supporting our signature program. I can tell you that that was a major focus for me, and you see that throughout the goals that we had. And then, are there positions our school would share with another school? Not right now. I think our only shared position is a psychologist. We're sharing a psychologist and maybe a speech language pathologist, and that's it. And it does come out, but it's
What about OT or does that come out?
any of that comes out, but it's like sometimes it's 0.3, 0.2.
No, we don't have.
But keep in mind, those, when I talk about some of the things that I can't touch, those are some, because those children receive those services by federal law, by IEP. And so the special ed office designates, okay, you need a speech pathologist for this amount of time, a psychologist for this amount of time. And so that they do that. Okay. All right, so on the next meeting, during the next meeting, we will review the budget, which will be based on the updated feedback from my staffing conference, which should occur on February 28th, I believe. We'll need to take action at that meeting. And then I will present that final budget with the recommendations for Go Team approval. And we have to meet sometime between the 28th and March 17th. And so
What is a staffing talk? What does that
that's when I go and sit down with HR, my associate superintendent, the budget people, and we sit down and we actually go through my whole budget and we walk through it line by line to make sure everything is proper. And that's my first time, like I said, that'll be my first time doing it. Go Team members, let's look at our calendars, please.
So you have that meeting the 28th,
Mhm.
and we have to meet before the 17th.
17th. So you threw out some dates, Ms. Stroh.
I'm just going for Thursdays, the second, 16th of the day.
Right now, my Thursday, March 2nd looks good. Let me make sure there's nothing at the bottom here. Wait.
But that's not that high.
That's a meeting, we do have a budget meeting at Sutton. And it ends.
I think the 9th is also maybe an option.
Okay, let's look at the 9th. See that, now this is what you're saying, principals meet on the 9th. I'll be away.
You're not here, okay?
It doesn't have to be a Thursday, I can say that. So if we want to go back to that first week, we can look at another day, it doesn't have to be a Thursday.
Personally, we don't do Tuesdays.
Tuesday's fine for me.
How about a Monday or Wednesday?
We can only do Tuesdays, you said Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Tuesday, we have the 14th, I have leadership right now. I don't know.
7?
That sounds good.
Is that faculty meeting or is that?
It's gonna be a meeting,
I
but
think it's faculty. Is faculty the first Tuesday?
first Tuesday is faculty.
So that's faculty.
We can get somebody else to lead it.
Is it possible to do it during the school day?
I think that's the best thing.
I think we need to do it not during school hours.
Can we all do Tuesday the 7th?
Yes.
And we'll get someone else to lead the faculty meeting. Same time, 3:15, Tuesday the 7th? Okay,
Do I hear a motion to accept the change to adjust the meeting calendar so that the meeting scheduled currently for the 23rd of March will now be held on the 7th of March at 3:15 here at the ICP Zoom?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a second? Everybody, all in favor, please come off mute and raise your hand or say aye. In
Aye.
favor, aye. Okay, oh yeah. All right,
capital improvements.
yeah, so quickly, shifting to our additional discussion item around capital improvements. I noticed, Mr. Hudson, that we are in the SPOS kind of deck that's 75 pages long, and it says that we have some money allocated to us for a new roof. And I know there's been some, trouble, a little bit of leaky roof. And I was just wondering if you could share with the group what the status might be, or your awareness of the status around that.
So we are getting a new roof at the PC.
Yeah. But,
I'll reserve my,
okay,
I'll reserve.
okay, okay.
We're getting a new roof at the PC, and they said the work is supposed to begin third quarter. They're gonna meet with me, talk about plans. The building should be, it will remain open while they're working on the roof. But we've spoken, they've emailed me, and they told us that they will connect with us to make that. I'm just really interested in knowing when that is going to get
You would like new walls and innards and everything.
I would
Not just
love
a
to,
roof.
right.
Okay.
And so that was my hesitation, like, when, but we'll have to find out. And I've asked about that, but that honestly is going to be my summer work, to really dig into when do we have some changes and improvements coming to the building. I know that the roof is already planned, it's already starting to be scheduled. They reached out to me and let me know that that's going to.
But roofing is.
I think it's the entire school. It's a brand new roof. They come out now, we did have, we put in some work orders one day when it was really raining that month ago or so. And they came out and patched up 14 holes, but then I understand one is a hole and already people again. But they have come out, but they are going to do the entire roof. I would love to see just an overhaul of the building, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Was there anything else?
Not for me. Does anybody else from the Go team have any questions, comments around this item?
Excuse me? That's what I have to find out. But you said you saw it in a SPLOST document, was
For the roof, yes, and I'll share that with you.
Yes,
So
please.
you can see it. And my father-in-law, who is 68 years old, said that he also used the same. So anyways, thank you for for being prepared and giving us that answer.
One other thing that we have though is they are working on, as far as capital improvement, they are working on the marquee at Sarah Smith primary. They are waiting on some internal parts, because what they've explained to me is they're going to keep the framework and gut out the innards and replace it with some new technology. They just fixed this one, so this one is up and running again. It was a power adapter. And so we're looking to get everything up and running good by next year. And certainly they told us by this January that's passed already, for the marquee over in Old Ivy, but there's trouble with getting parts and things of that nature. So they're still on top of that. And I'll be following up to hopefully have that finished before the year is out.
Another concern in that general area. Big lights that don't work. The lights are there to, this would be like
We have some of this campus too, as you're coming.
I've asked about this one, and we have work orders in here. Just remind me tomorrow and we'll get work orders in there.
It's not a big issue right now, but when it's time changes, it's dark mornings, it's sometimes.
Oh, no, I've seen it at both campuses. It's too dark. And so I'll look into it, and we'll talk to Mr. Joel tomorrow and get that. I didn't notice it there as much, but definitely the lights were out. We put in the orders for a while now, but we haven't done it. All
right. So you did, just shifting in our agenda now, you did just share some informational items with us. Was there anything else you wanted to share in your report?
Just in general, we have an esports team coming. So that's starting soon, and a coding club that will be run by Ms. Frederick. So those are two new things that the school has. Our students have been competing in various competitions that you all have seen. Hopefully you see the news, and we did well in the spelling bee. I think we was it eighth place. She did well, and she was competing against all the kids as well. We had some first and second place winners in social studies, science, and we also have an upcoming writers contest where we have one student from each grade level going to represent us at the district level. So we'll see how we do, but academic competitions are well and alive, and our students are performing well, and we look for them to even do better. Beta Club had its interest meeting today, so spread the word. Your kids should be coming home talking about Beta Club for 5th grade students. And that is what we have in general.
Is there a math competition?
Yes, hidden figures.
And how did you choose like who represents the school for that?
That I do not know.
I
I
know,
know Ashley's doing that.
I thought she asked for volunteers.
I think she asked for volunteers and there was something they had to take or do in order to.
Is she asking about the math, how people
I think there's
could
something.
be on the team?
Yes.
So it was a combination of volunteer, it was map scores, and then it was winter map scores, and that combined with teacher recommendation, I believe. And then from the big pool of students, she gave students a packet to work through so they could kind of see what it was going to be like. And then they went from there when she met with the kids after they worked through the problems.
It's just third, is it third, fourth, and fifth, or just fourth, fifth? It's third, fourth, fifth.
I am not sure about that.
It was third, fourth, and fifth. Third grade was included in
Okay.
the cohort.
Miss Barnes, I'm just seeing what you typed. What was 17 years, staying the same for 17 years?
Sorry, back when you were talking about the Education Foundation being around for a long time, I said 17 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Principal Hudson. Oh, yes.
Maybe not making it. Looking it up, making it.
We tell the mall testers like Home Depot.
Walking to the gym is the whole side, completely takes on water. The paint is bubbled. Whatever the states. Because anytime it rains, the interior of that wall. The storage room, there's 3 buckets that just clean. I know the gym alone has a lot of.
Water. Because what? APS has people, so we can't ask for the entire building, but they can say, we can ask for specific spots. So if you have any recommendations.
They come out.
No, we can ask for their quality check, which should provide quality, about them all. That'd be great.
Any other comments, questions? Yeah.
Review the budget and vote.
The next portion of our agenda is announcements. Remind all Go Team members to please complete their budget training on the Ellis platform. If you need any assistance, I know that the Go Team office will be happy to help you. Yes.
Can you repeat? Did she hear that about the Go Team training? Budget training? We can talk after.
And then the next part on our meeting agenda is public comment. Did we receive any requests for public comment ahead of this meeting? No. Is there anybody who's joined us here today who wishes to make public comment?
I have a question, sorry, this is just going back to the budget. Do we still have 0.5 French, or does that change?
That's one more year, 0.5.
One more year.
1 per year French.
1 point, yeah. That was a decision made before I came.
Yes.
That we were
We're aware
going
of
to get rid of French
So this year is not last year's.
next year. The current 4th graders, their last
Okay.
year.
Is there anybody who's joined us here who wishes to make public comment? So I'll read the protocol for that. Looks like there is none. So with that, we have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? There being done, may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I second.
Thank you and thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
That's all of us. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for your commitment to Sarah Smith.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.